Net zoals mijn hekel aan mensen die een zwaard hebben hangen en dit doen.
Ja.
Oké. Ja, gewoon pet peeves.
Ik denk omgaan met publiek en droomuitbeelding.
Ja.
Of van waar wil je naartoe streven, zeg maar.
Dat is goed.
Yeah, so welcome back to this installment of the podcast. Today we're going to talk a little bit about where we want to head with our hobby, especially the impressions that we would like to do in the future, the ones we are doing now, and how we interact with the public actually during events. Mm-hmm. So for myself, actually the impression that I'm doing right now is officer, sergeant, more to speak, of a pipe block, or I'm a pikeman myself. So it's more the military kind of impressions that I do. I'm doing that now for, I think, 11 years or so. I'm doing
but
it
not
now.
officer of pike.
No, not officer. That's the last 5 years or so. It's really fun to do. I've learned a lot of it. Spend a lot of money on it as well. I mean, these days when you have to buy where's the cheese going?
No, I cut the cheese, and I thought I threw away all the rinds, but I wanted to grab a cube, and it was rind, so I threw it out. Then I grabbed another cube, and it was rind, and I threw.
Okay.
So either.
But that one's without. It's without.
Is this rind? This is also rind.
But yeah,
Tom, you want to pick up a piece of cheese for me?
Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Because when I pick them up, they magically turn into rind.
I pick one with rind. No, but
okay, go on.
To go back to the subject, when you have to buy like a piece of armor these days, you would spend. You spend a lot of money, of course, looking at what you want. But if you want like high quality armor that's made to fit, that's forged steel and stuff, you're always looking at around 800, 900 euros at least.
At least, yeah.
So it's a lot of money to do a good pikeman impression for early 17th century, I guess.
Yeah, and I have a lot of issues with that. Like for one, I don't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But it's a big problem that you almost never can buy a good looking suit of armor off the rack and actually fit it before you buy it. Because you do really need to custom order it.
Mm-hmm.
And then often there's still a waiting list. Like I know that one of the armorers that was on Groll, I believe it's spelled Mojmír, but some people also say Mojmír.
Yeah, it's a Czech at least.
It's a Czech. For convenience, I will link his website in the video description. I believe that normally his waiting list was 1.5 years.
No, something like that.
So from the moment you've ordered it to the moment you receive it, you better not gain or lose any weight.
Harder to do these days, though.
Every year is not killing, man. And like your armor is from Blockley, from the UK. Okay. You've had that one also for years. How long was that wait back then?
I think it was a year.
Yeah,
I've waited for an entire year for that one. Yeah,
that also was a year. So yeah, those waiting lists are long. They're expensive, and I'm always afraid that I will be disappointed when I finally get it, because can it live up to what I'm to my hopes?
It's always kind of a risk. I've had it in the past when I bought armor, and that at one point it can feel really well, and you're like, oh yes, this is indeed made to fit, and it's perfect. Yeah. And then the next piece of armor that you buy is like, oh, and it actually hurts to wear it. I've got these shoulder blades, and there's nothing wrong made about it by the blacksmith, but it's just the combination of the plates with my my other armor. It's not fitting together well.
Yeah, I've tried your armor with your spoilers, and I've also tried those spoilers with someone else's armor, and there was a noticeable difference, and it's mostly because of your backplate.
Yes, my backplate of my armor, it's based on the Graz armor, so it's in the armory of Graz in Austria, or is it Switzerland? I think Austria. And the backplate is straight.
Yeah, it's not. It's more convex.
Yeah, there isn't actually more anatomically formed.
It's convex shaped, and the other armor that I've tried it on, it's owned by Ule of Allemansend, and his one is formed more like a human back, like it concaves in the middle and convexes.
Yeah, it has the shoulder blades.
It has the shoulder blade more pronounced shoulder blades. And a more pronounced back shape, and I believe the gorget of your shoulder armor also has that dip in the middle.
The middle, yeah. And that's actually the thing that starts to hurt when I'm wearing my armor on top of the gorget. What you have to do, otherwise you get the gorget straight to the chin every time you lift up your arms. You can actually feel the gorget just pressing down into my shoulder blades, and I can wear it for like an hour, 1.5, and then I'm just going like an old man, like, oh, get it off. But it's concessions that you make sometimes to do a good impression. But yeah, what I would really love to do in the future is actually going more to the officer side, not going like really high officer, but like things like lieutenant, captain, that kind of stuff. Give orders to bigger blocks. I would really love to do that. And completely the other way around, doing like not a military kind of impression, but more like a civilian impression of a carpenter, ship's carpenter, that kind of stuff. And I've even actually looked at just being the guy who owns the camp tavern or bigger or that kind of stuff. So really the civilian side of
camp followers and
camp follower stuff. Yeah, but I've decided to keep that for the years that I'm not. That's
from when you retire.
I retire as a military stuff as well. Just too old to go in the field and just go like, I'll stay in camp. So yeah, that are kind of my dreams for impressions in the hobby. So
and how would that look? How would for instance the carpentry impression? How do you imagine that impression?
I imagine it actually a lot like the paintings and drawings from Adriaan van de Ven. So the guys with the boxrockers, so the red kind of woolen sweaters actually, kind of stuff. But I also imagine it having the tools and stuff. So having a toolbox with the saws, the chisels, the hammers, that kind of stuff. And actually doing like small kind of jobs on the campsite. So like making small boxes or actually making my tools on the campsite and stuff like that. And I'm a carpenter in real life. And I would really love to have the techniques that I'm using these days to learn them actually how they did it back in the day, and actually like having a kind of learning curve about how my techniques, where they come from and stuff. Yeah,
you actually, in the modern day, you actually went to school to become a carpenter.
Yes, indeed.
Well, funny enough, we just had the Sinterklaas period and the holiday season, like we discussed in our last episode. And during this period, one of the presents I received is connected to this topic.
Wat heeft Sinterklaas jou gebracht, mijn jongen?
Nou, de goedheilig man heeft mij voorzien.
Boeken.
I got some books, and these are the archaeological the archaeological studies from the Mary Rose ship. There are 2 volumes.
Oh boy, expensive books.
Yeah, and it's from the Mary Rose, so it's from, I believe, 1549 or 48, and they feature a lot of drawings of the finds. The right page,
drills.
right page, just in one go. And they feature a lot of the carpenter's tools, because one of the things that was almost complete was the carpenter's cabin. So you should really take a look at this, because there isn't. I don't believe there is much technological change for carpentry within the 16th and the 17th century.
You can even see. I've seen pictures from like saws and chisels, like from back in the 17th or 16th century for that matter. And I look at them and I was like, that could be in a carpenter's box at present day. It didn't change it, but perhaps the materials, like the handles, wouldn't be made of wood, but from plastic or no. But
and things like benches and chests and stools and stuff, they don't change that much. Like bigger things like the actual method of shipbuilding and stuff like that. That changes a bit in the period. But smaller things like household items, they largely stay the same.
Yeah, I still remember at school I had to make one of the first projects that I had to make was like a wooden mallet. Of a wooden mallet to make the hammer, actually.
Oh, those were actually in here.
Yeah,
I've seen that mallet. You broke that a few years ago.
I broke it. Yes,
I've seen it, and actually, almost exact.
It's exactly
like that,
the
those
same.
are in here, are in the book,
and I still use them today. You can buy them in shops as well. I'm like, for like 400 years, that kind of tool just stayed the same. So it's like, well, if it works, don't change it.
Yeah.
So. But how about you? Do you have some specific?
Ooh, do I have some specific? Now, my reenactment interpretation right now is a Dutch sailor, Dutch sailor, and also a Dutch sailor, whaler, privateer. They all bleed over in each other. I really want to finally finish my harpooner impression. The only thing I miss for that are I write harpooner's boots. I believe 2 years ago I ordered custom made harpooner boots, but they arrive with rubber soles and double layers of leather and the wrong color, so I had to return it. And I didn't have the financial means to try it again.
Did you got the money back from that?
Yeah, I got most of the money back.
Oh, that's kind of
most of the money, yeah. But but again, a lot of things happen throughout the years that make it hard to try something like that again. That's also why I don't have armor yet in the hobby. I do hope to one day have fitting armor. But stupidly enough, my dream, I've the harpooner depiction dream, which is almost finished apart from the boots. Like the boots for harpooners, like I've discussed in the video series about the Dutch whalers. They come from Basque whalers, and Dutch harpooners kept wearing the boots as a status symbol to denote their station as a harpooner. There are specific boots that differ from mainland riding boots. For one reason, that they have the seams on the inside and outside of the leg, and not on the back of the leg.
Does it have a specific?
No.
It's not specific that it's for a kind of function. It's just that's how they're made.
Not that I know of. It's no. It's just a specific form. And apparently in that way they're similar to some Western boots. Yeah, like what we call them, cowboy boots. They often also have a seam on the sides.
Okay.
Yeah. But another dream impression that I actually have is not a 17th century impression. It's 16th century, and it's an early 80 Years' War military depiction of a late period Landsknecht, or even a Spanish soldier.
Would be fun. And then like a double Saltner, like with the big sword, or do you have?
I don't mind any of that. That could be fun, but also an arquebusier would also be fun. Like not
with the arquebuses, you have to shoot like that.
Not a mounted arquebusier, but it's just have an arquebus.
The cavalier man isn't that
caliver.
More like a cavalier?
Yeah, there's overlap because you have the arquebus, you have the caliver, and the muskets, and the caliver is somewhere in the middle of the muskets and the arquebus. But it also depends on what kind of definition you hold, because they can look just similar, only bigger and smaller.
Yeah, that's kind of more the kind of armor still with some parts of chainmail in it, because
I would really like the South European style of armor with mail sleeves and caboset and then pluderhosen.
So no. I would, if I would go like more 16th century, it would actually still work for 17th century. It's like the burgonet helmets. I really like those type of helmets, but I have never bought one.
Yeah.
But
I don't like the burgonet helmets with the comb.
That's the one that I just like as much.
I like the early German burgonet helmets that are more pointed.
Oh, those things, the acorn helmets, I always called them. Oh, a good friend of mine, Mark, has a girl he bought a burgonet, and he was like, "Oh, look!" And I just was like, actually, I was going like, "Oh, that looks good."
Oh, wasn't that the burgonet you don't like?
No, it's actually the ones that I like.
Because he to paint a word picture, Mark has what I call a baseball hat. Burgonet, with the burgonet sits on his head, and he just has a sun visor.
Yeah, but the kind of how the sides of the helmets fall together with the cap, actually, it's like, that's what I don't really like.
I'll get a book.
Get the book. Maurits van Münster.
Yeah.
Yep, that one. Very good book, by the way, if you really want to look at Dutch kind of armor from back in 16th centuries or 17th century. This is really the book you should read about.
Van Maurits naar Münster. Go to the burgonets.
I think my armor that I now wear as a pikeman or as an officer comes from that, was inspired from an armor back in that book.
Yeah, I believe so. Burnett.
Although my armor.
Then this is the convenience of recording at my home, because I know what's in my books.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I have to look.
Yeah,
that's the one that I really like.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
This is for you guys. This is the one Tom likes, and this is what I would call a baseball cap burgonet.
Yeah, I mean,
because this is also a burgonet, but it doesn't have the baseball cap visor.
That's actually the kind of helmets where you see where the morion actually comes from that, and it disintegrates into that.
Yeah, but does it though?
I think it's still I found that really ugly helmets.
There was a weapons historian who made those evolution charts of weapon and armor or helmet evolutions, and most historians nowadays say, those are bullshit, because there is, in some cases there is an evolution, in some cases there is I believe the word is convergent evolution, when two things are not related to each other but come to a kind of a same solution.
And it's the same actually for the Stormhood, Morion, and they all come from the cattle head, and that's more where with different shapes and the Cabasset actually come from.
For people who don't know, this is what we call a Stormhood, or pikeman's pot, or
well, you have one here. You can show the real thing.
Yeah, I could.
Go get stuff from your closet.
This is also something you want to talk about later.
Well, this is a Stormhood.
This is a Stormhood. So. Oh yeah, the Burgonet, like we talked about. The Cabasset. Cabasset is often defined by having a really small brim and just being a high skull cap, often with a stem.
Mm-hmm.
And the stem is a product of the way they're manufactured. And and the Morion helmets. I really hope this comes across on video.
Zoom!
Like enhance!
Enhance!
Zoom! Enhance! And like you can see here, the comparisons between the Morion helmet and the Stormhood. Some people also call the Stormhood the Dutch Morion. Let's remove that.
I've even heard people call it the Swedish pot.
Yeah, Swedish pot, Dutch
Swedish
pot.
pot, English pots,
Yeah.
Dutch Morion, that kind of stuff.
It's also the kind of the same way why you have the Swedish Dutch field sword.
Oh yeah, that kind of stuff. But I've actually heard people also call like that kind of helmets like the Protestant kind of helmets, and then the Morions the Imperial Catholic type of helmet. I was like, that's bullshit, because both armies would wear both kind of helmets.
Yeah, especially since that's in the 17th century, the Morion and the Cabasset had mostly gone out of fashion.
Yeah.
The Morion and the Cabasset are mostly 16th century helmets, and the Burgonet still remained mostly for officers, but still remained into the 17th century.
Officers and cavalry.
Officers and cavalry.
Cavalry especially, yeah.
Those would remain into the 17th century, but there was a bigger variety of types of armors and types of helmets in the 16th century, and they got more regulated in the 17th century. You have for armors, you have different closures. For the Dutch infantry for the Dutch infantry, it became almost standard that they will be armed with armor that will be closed with hooks. And for other nations, it could be in different ways, but this is what we mostly see for the Dutch infantry.
Yeah, I have for that kind of stuff. I have more southern type of armor with the straps and buckles.
Yeah, the straps and buckles, which we more see with the South German styles and the Spanish Netherlands and Spain, Italy, and the whole south of Europe. Yeah. Also, one of those things is that South European armors are often not blackened, and Dutch armors are almost always black, either painted or oil blackened, or something like that.
But then is the question: does the museum who keeps the armors do that, or I've heard about it? It's also in regulations of Dutch military that the armor had to be blackened. Just for the upkeep of the armor to be a lot easier.
Well, easy enough. We have a lot of portraits of officers
with blackened armor, though. Yeah,
who almost all have black armor. It's really I believe you have to be royalty in the Netherlands to have not blackened armor, almost, because then the armor is not blackened, but it's gilded.
Gilded or blued?
Gilded or blued, yeah. And those are more expensive than blackening them. And for one, Dutch were Protestant Calvinists, so that's the reason, and the fact that it's a wet climate. And I believe in Italy and Spain, it was more common to have bare metal that was often etched.
But talking about impressions and the stuff that we bring for impressions.
Yeah, we really like to stay on topic here.
Yeah. Everything is a topic these days. But during impressions, you always, most of the time, you always have to look at how the public perceives your impression, or how to explain your impression to the public. Are there certain kind of ways that you like to get involved with the public, or do you say like I'm just standing at the distance waiting for the public to come and ask questions? Or
it really differs, and I also know this differs for a lot of reenactors. Because personally, I really like explaining things for the public. There are also reenactors who are more in the hobby for themselves, and they are more there for their own experience and feeling like they're in the period and going through those experiences. Personally, I like the interaction with the public. The Dutch public, however, is in Dutch we would say nuchter. The translation would be sober, but that's a bit of a that doesn't have the same meaning in English as in Dutch in that regard. For instance, Dutch public really doesn't really like first person reenacting.
Oh yeah, when you take on actually the live action role play kind of reenactment, that's
like the Dutch in that way are really different to, for instance, Americans. Because American visitor, like when you have a museum like a museum park like Archeon, Archeon in the Netherlands, or in historical sites in the US. In the US, they really, the public really expects for people to be in character and portray a role, and like they've never seen a modern thing in their lives. And the Dutch public is more like, we know you don't. We know you don't live in that period. We know you know what a phone is. So like they say in Dutch, doe maar gewoon. Just be normal. And the Dutch don't really like it when someone really stays in character, and I believe a lot of Dutch reenactors also don't really like to stay in a character.
There are a few who like to, but most of them actually don't really like. I know for a fact that in Belgium there is like a museum called Blockley where they actually portray life in Belgium as it was in, I think, 1913 or 1914, just before the First World War. And they have like a specific part of the museum is actually like a role play kind of part, where they actually have like people like farmers, the school teacher, the priests, who actually take on a specific role. And I always have the feeling that it's fun how they do it, and it's really it brings up how life was back in the day, but it also feels a bit awkward always because you're like, okay.
Yeah, I do believe that the Belgians are a bit more whimsical like that.
Yeah,
they
go along a bit.
They go along a bit more than the Dutch do. But the Dutch are really a lot drier than that. From like, okay, just give us the information, but just talk normally to me.
You don't have to do the role. Just do your thing, but don't do the role.
But some people are surprised when I ask them what time it is.
It is
when it's time, when you need to be on time at a specific point, like for a battle or something, and you go to someone else. Do you know what time it is?
I've seen someone actually do it very cleverly with public that way, and he was like, "I have to know what time it is. I have to look at the sun to know it." And then you saw the entire public going to look at the sun, and then he'd look down at his watch, stuff like that.
No, but I would really like to do more 16th century reenactments, because in the Netherlands, almost anyone who does 80 Years War reenactment does the second half of the war, the 17th century part, and almost no one does the 16th century. And there's a lot of information there that's not discussed within the hobby. It's also because the 17th century is also known as the Dutch Golden Age. So there are more famous paintings and things from that period.
The party started winning.
Yeah, this is the part of the war where the Dutch started having success.
16th century is a bit more on the. It's the same actually for Belgium.
There are a bit more atrocities in that century.
In Belgium, the part of the 80 Years War that gets discussed is actually just the other way around. It's always the 16th century part, because then the war was really down on us on our side as well, because you have like the Spanish Fury in Antwerp. Siege of Brussels, of Mechelen, that kind of stuff. But then it's kind of seems to stop with the capture of Antwerp in 1585. When they capture Antwerp and the Spanish are back in control in the south, and then just the entire 80 Years War stops for us for some reason.
And that's also kind of the pivotal end of the Flemish Golden Age.
Yeah, because at that moment Antwerp became a ghost town. Most of the intellectual and economic people from the cities like Brussels, like Ghent, Antwerp, that kind of stuff, they all fled north in the hope that the armies of the State General would go back south, but they never managed to. But
there are people who believe that that's exodus of Flemish intellectuals to the northern Netherlands led to things like the establishment of the Dutch East India Company, and that they actually moved the Flemish Golden Age to the Dutch Golden Age.
I'm actually a firm believer of that kind of thing, though. Not to be patriotic of anything, but if you look at the people who set up stuff in the Netherlands, who were involved, a lot of it was Flemish and Brabantian money who was flooded into cities like Amsterdam, Haarlem, that kind of stuff. And what is mostly forgotten is it's not so much the merchants like the East India companies and stuff, but textile merchants from Flanders who set up new businesses in the north, and it was really, really successful down there.
Yeah. Oh, and the fun thing with that is also that, which I then know, that a lot of the Flemish refugees, some fled to England, and they set up textile industries over there. And then they moved again to the Netherlands.
Yes, actually the fun part is that it's actually kind of a thing that you only find in Belgian history books. But the creation of the settlement of New Amsterdam wasn't done by Dutchmen, but Walloon refugees who fled north and then went to America and created the colony of Nova Belgica.
Oh.
And then the city of New Amsterdam was created.
John Holman, are you listening?
So a lot of Belgian Walloons, French-speaking, Belgians wasn't really a thing back then. It was all parts of the Low Countries. But actually a lot of the French-speaking parts went over to America to start up the colonies and stuff.
From the south, from
the south of the Low Countries.
From the I mean in America, from the French-speaking colonies in Florida and
No, from the south French-speaking parts of the Low Countries who fled north during the 8 Years' War.
I know where Wallonia is.
And then they went over to parts of the Americas to create the Dutch colonies of New Amsterdam and that kind of stuff.
Okay. No, because what I thought is that they moved north to but they were. This really doesn't matter for anyone watching, but I understood that they were in America and they moved north to...
No. They went north in the Low Countries and then went over the big water.
Okay.
On the Dutch flag, of course, so everything was...
So it's the Dutch!
Yeah, the Dutch created it.
It's the Basque harpooners all over.
It's the
again.
French-speaking Dutch now, okay?
No, it's the Basque ballooners all over again.
Yes.
Like, okay, go scout for us, and when we don't need you anymore, we forbid you forever coming here again.
Yes, that's what the Dutch always do with us Belgians.
It's the Basque ballooners. It's the Basque ballooners. It's the Basque whalers all over again. Teach us how to hunt whales. Okay, now we know how to hunt whales. Go away.
It's what the Dutch always. A Boya massacre, wasn't it? Oh no, that was the other way around. It was the Dutch doing all the work, and then the English tried to do a Dutchie on the Dutch. Like, okay, now you have done everything in the East Indies. Now we can take it over, and then stuff happened between the Dutch and the English, and the Amboya massacre happens, which the English stayed salty over for almost a century.
The English like to be salty over their history.
You can expect it when they stay on an island covered by sea on all sides.
Well, I don't know.
Lots of salt.
When you want, but when you want to talk about the English being salty about their history, I have an anecdote about that.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna lose a lot of subscribers.
No. You're not going anywhere. You're held captive here. A few years ago, a group of Dutch reenactors was planning an event in the UK. Allemansend was part of this, and we wanted to commemorate Michiel de Ruiter's trek up the Medway River to lay siege to the English fleet at Upnor Castle.
You wanted to reenact the raid on Chatham.
Yeah, we wanted to reenact the raid on Chatham. And we knew there was a commemoration. There would be a commemoration that year because it was so many years since it happened. The English were like, we don't want you to reenact the battle. But we are going to allow you to do the raid on the fort of Felixstowe.
Of course, the one thing that we lost.
Yeah, because we lost over there, we were allowed to do the event over there, and we both were at that event. It was really fun event. We got to sleep inside the fort. And with the boat of Allemansend, we got to do a landing and a raid on the beach. And to add to that, the boat I was in had a miscommunication because it was the idea that we had soldiers in the boat. The boats would land on the beach, the soldiers would get off of the boats, and the boats would remain on the beach, and we would stay with the boats, so everything would be safe. The boat I was on had a miscommunication, and we had a briefing with just the guys in our boat, and we were like, okay, we need to go to the beach, get the soldiers off of the boats, and then go back to sea again. What happened was, we landed right next to the pier. Our boat was, because of the Golfstroom stream, the waves were pushing us to the pier and to the piers, the poles of the pier.
You nearly died.
And then during our landing, our rudder was lifted. Was lifted out of its place, which the rudders of our boats do. So we didn't have a rudder once we beached. We set off our soldiers and we pushed back, and the man steering our boats then discovered that he couldn't get the rudder back on. So we had to steer on only two oars, and we were still getting sucked to the pier. It was a bit stressful, and at one point we were just spinning, waiting for the lifeboat of the Coast Guard to come and save us.
Why is it always when something like that happens that you are involved in some way?
No comments. No
Indeed.
comments.
But about interaction with the public as well. I did have a good interaction actually with the public at Felixstowe though, because the people there, and that's the thing that I have noticed about the English, that they aren't afraid to come towards you and ask questions about certain stuff of what kind of equipment you're wearing and that. And that's the thing that I'm missing in the Netherlands as well, because I also really like it to explain stuff to the public. But finding the entry to start a conversation with the public is sometimes really difficult.
It also really depends on the setting, because in a place like Archeon, the museum park, we've talked a lot about. We should really get them as a sponsor at some point. So Archeon, if you want to sponsor us, please let us know. But yeah, at Archeon, it's a museum park, so people are coming there with a specific mindset from, okay, we're going to a museum, it's educational, so we're going to learn things. And in the historical houses in Archeon, they can touch everything, smell everything, lick everything. So you really need to make sure that they don't go into your tent, because they're almost, by the time they get to your camp, they're conditioned that they can go anywhere and touch anything and do anything. But they're also a bit conditioned to be able to ask questions and go from, okay, those are the historical interpreters. They are going to tell us something about history. We can go to them, and that bridge has, for a large part, already been crossed. What also helps a lot in that situation is just saying hi to the public, because if you say hi, you have begun the interaction.
But I always find the most easiest way to get the interaction with the public is when there's children with the public. I most of the time
do you want to hold a sword?
Not even that specific though. But, most of the time I set up a kind of display of what the common soldier would bring along on campaign, like what would be in his backpack and stuff.
Your little cloth.
My little cloth. Actually, that people are coming like, is that for sale? No, it's not for sale. It's a display. But what I often get is that children are looking at the display, and then
you can see all the objects.
And then the first question I always ask the children or the parents of the children is like, do you guys go camping sometimes? And then they answer yes or no. If they answer yes, it's very easy. They can explain like, okay, you go camping. What do you bring along on a camping trip? And then they start explaining the modern stuff of camping, and then actually making the connection between the modern stuff for camping and then what the soldier would bring for camping. And you can see that the children are actually quite involved, and they're actually curious. They start asking stuff about the display and the different stuff they see. But you always notice at a certain point that it is kind of enough for the children. They're like, okay,
they're
now
full, their eyes glaze over. Squirrel.
And that's the moment you realize, okay, now I have to turn towards the parents for the.
Oh no! There's even one of the fun, characteristic encounters you always get at events. Is the know-it-all dad who doesn't know it all.
Oh yeah, that's also a thing. Yeah,
like there's always one dad who wants to impress on his children. This is that, and it works like this, and then you're this actually works like this, and then he just goes away.
I've actually had it a couple of times that when I see like, okay, the children are getting tired of it. In the same that it's a lot of information and stuff. I always try to guide them towards the next impression. Most of the time, it's my girlfriend explaining food and games and that kind of stuff, and then they go that, and like 50 or 60% of the time, the family goes that way, but the grandpa or something stays behind it because he's like, no, I want to learn more. And then you have like an entire conversation with the grandpa.
And it's often the grandpa who is kind of rediscovering his youth a bit.
Yeah, it's almost like we used to do that back in my day. How old are you? 454.
It's either that or it's the grandpa who was rediscovering his youth and kind of really would have loved to do reenactment if he could.
We have that kind of people already in the hobby.
Yeah, but they aged into it.
Yeah, they aged into it, yeah. But also a fun thing about interaction with the public is that you can like scan a bit what kind of people there are. I've had a couple of times that there were really young people who came to the stand and was like asking questions about the kind of armor or weapons, and only to find out actually that they were like LARPers or people who play Dungeons and Dragons, and they were like, okay, and I'm gonna use this for my next roleplay and stuff.
Yeah, but those people are really fun because they often have a good basis of knowledge. And they so we don't have to explain everything, and they are always really enthusiastic about the extra knowledge they didn't know that you then can provide. And they often have a fresh take on some things, like, so it's like this and this and this.
Most of the time when I'm doing my display and giving explanations to everything that's in front of me, most of the people actually stay there and they listen to everything that I'm saying. Most of the time, I don't tend to be too boring, I guess. But it happened like once or twice actually in the 11 years that I'm doing it, that there are people just listening to it, going like, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the sentence, just turn around and walk away. And I'm like, okay then.
Oh, yeah, but there's a worse thing. I have done this.
I find it so horrible because you're in the middle of the sentence and you'll go like, okay, do I have to finish this sentence now? Or
I think you've also done this. Do you remember the stories about the button presentation?
Yeah, but that's not the point, because then there is still someone standing there listening. I've had it that just the one person that I'm talking to just turns around and walks away, and then there's nobody left, and then you're just like, what's less awkward, me finishing the sentence now or just stopping halfway and just doing the same thing, turning around?
Oh, and for you guys, the button presentation was a few years at Roller. There was a man, and he had a really detailed presentation about buttons. And it was a really good and even interesting.
It wasn't boring.
It wasn't boring. It was just really long.
It was really a lot of information.
It was really long. It was a really long presentation with actually a lot of information, like even information about the first buttons ever discovered and stuff like that. It was the whole history of buttons. And Ule from our group he said, you really need to listen to that guy. He has a presentation about buttons, and we went with the whole of Allemansend. We went to the button guy, and he started his presentation. After about 10 minutes, I noticed that Ule walked on, and another 10 minutes later, another member of our group, he walked on. She also walked on, and another 5 minutes later. I walked on, and there was one member of our group, Tineke, who was forced to listen to the rest of the presentation.
Well, she went along for the entire ride.
For the entire ride. I think it was half an hour in total, and more than half an hour. And we were just standing a little bit further on the market because we still wanted to see the market before the day was before the end of the day. And later on, I think Ule got you with the same trap.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was really interesting though. But I was like, "Oh boy, he's really going into it."
It's not just the history of 16th and 17th century buttons. No, it's every century and every button since the first guy thought, "I need to close something." how do I close them? I will develop the button.
But he was really enthusiastic about what he talked, and I was like,
he was actually really good. I really want to state here that the guy was actually really, really good and really knowledgeable. And it wasn't even that his presentation was boring or something. It just was really long. It was long for what we signed up for.
Well, the problem is certainly during events like Battle of Groll, as a reenactor, you have like specific parts of the day that you have time to see the rest of the event, and especially Groll with all the traders, and you have like, you almost have to make an agenda from, I'm going from that hour to that hour, I'm going there and there and there, and then when you end up with a guy like that who's really enthusiastic, he's really good at his job, but the long you just go like, oh, I still have to visit that swordsmith. I really still have to go to the I can't. Oh, I don't have time for this now. You just die on the inside.
You're just dying of the social pressure of disappointing the great button man by saying I need to go. And not finishing his presentation.
It's like shooting a Labrador or a golden retriever in the face. Like going like, you're really great, but I have to.
That's actually a really good analogy of how that feels. He just stares at you with his button eyes.
No, but I did have moments that people just went like, okay, turn around, walks off, and I was never mind then. But I've also experienced children actually who went first on their own, and they listened to what I had to say, and then they went off, took their parents, dragged their parents over to my place and said like, you have to listen to this guy. And then the parents listened for the entirety. And then the kids actually just, I always have a straw mattress in my tent when there's straw. And I actually just pulled out the straw mattress, and then the kids would sit on the straw mattress just to experience how it feels, but they would just sit there, listen to the entire thing, and then they would go like, I could really go for a nap now. I was like, well, you can lay down if you want to feel it. And then they lay down. It's like an entire book opens for those children.
But really letting people experience things and relate to things, that's really important in the hobby. And that's the relating to things is something I think the Dutch people really find important. And that's also why they don't like the first person reenactment. Because they just like to relate, like someone who they can relate to. Like they're a modern person, they know you're a modern person. So there's a relationship there. And when you can make the comparison, like you said, to modern camping and historical camping, and see where they cross over, where they differ, I think that's what Dutch people really like to relate to that and to the past. Like what's the past got to do with me?
Especially
a while back, I listened to an interview with Maarten van Rossum. Maarten van Rossum is often called the historicus des vaderlands, which in English would be the historian of the fatherland. Or motherland, whatever you want to call it.
He's more a comedian though, but
yes, but he's officially a history professor. And in the interview, the question was asked from, what do you think about the fact that the public doesn't know much about history? And he said, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think anyone's getting unhealthy from not knowing history. All the people who know nothing about history are still just healthy and alive. So I don't think you become an unhealthy person for you won't die if you don't know history. Should some people know more history? Sure, but the public doesn't. Not everyone in the public needs to be an historian. And I think that a lot of reenactors, because history is such a prominent fixture in their lives, are often really shocked about how little people know about the history of their own country and other countries, but mostly about their own.
Or how unimportant they find it to be. That's the shocking part sometimes.
History is long ago, and some people know outlines.